not for you, but for the ones who played with your name, like it didn't carry weight. Their position was temporary, yours was promise. Their rise was born, yours was built. You're walking into the kind of season where the truth stands up before you even open your mouth. Where your character speaks louder than their accusations ever did. Where your resilience becomes the spotlight and their intentions become the evidence. And, the universe has a funny way of balancing things right when people think they've gotten away with everything. And, it's wild because you can actually feel the shift in how people speak your name when you're not around. Something in their voice cracks now. Something in their spirit hesitates. Something in their confidence glitches a little. Like they suddenly realize they misplayed their hand with the wrong person. You ever notice how people start rewriting history? When they sense accountability creeping toward them, they start pretending they were supportive. They start pretending they were neutral. They start pretending they always believed in you. It's funny in a dark, twisted, my-type way. Watching the same people who aimed for your destruction suddenly act like innocent bystanders in a movie they produced. And you're not even mad about it anymore. You're just watching the performance, observing the panic behind their eyes, hearing the tremble behind their excuses, catching the guilt behind their fake compliments. Because deep down, they know the energy flipped. They know your spirit isn't where it used to be. They know you're stepping into something bigger, something heavier, something they no longer have the clearance to access. And, the way they react to your peace is exposing everything. Your calmness makes them restless. Your clarity makes them paranoid. Your elevation makes them insecure. Your silence makes them loud. It's like your growth turned into a mirror they never wanted to look into. Every lie they told about you is bouncing back at them. Every move they made in the dark is being illuminated without you lifting a finger. Every intention they tried to hide is crawling out the cracks like it's tired of living undercover. And you're not chasing revenge. You're not throwing shade. You're not keeping score. You're just stepping into alignment. When you align spiritually, emotionally, mentally, people who build their identity around your downfall start slipping. You can see it in their posture. You can hear it in their voice. You can feel it in the way they avoid you, like your presence might reveal the truth they spent years trying to bury. And, it's almost poetic how their position was the thing they worshipped, the thing they defended, the thing they bragged about. And now it's the exact thing that's being taken from them. Not because you wished for it, not because you begged for it, not because you fought for it, but because they tried to take something from you that was never theirs to touch. Your purpose, your peace, your identity, your voice, your future. They couldn't take your life, and somewhere deep in their spirit they're realizing that was the moment everything turned against them. The moment they failed sense that shift around you. Opportunities finding you by accident, connections coming out of nowhere, clarity dropping into your chest at random moments like spiritual notifications, reminders that you've entered a different frequency entirely. And people feel it. Oh, they feel it. Even the ones pretending they don't. Your presence carries a weight now. Not a heavy, burdensome weight. A powerful, undeniable weight. The kind that makes people sit up straighter. The kind that makes them rethink how they approach you. The kind that forces them to confront the version of you they tried to erase. And, it's not just about justice. It's about revelation. Revelation that you weren't fragile. Revelation that you weren't confused. Revelation that you weren't losing. Revelation that you weren't the villain in the story. Every lie they told about you is dissolving. Every illusion they built is collapsing. Every mask they wore is slipping. Your growth turned into the loudest siren in the room, echoing through every space their ego once occupied. And you can almost feel destiny pulling you forward with this gentle but undeniable force. Like the universe is whispering, keep walking, keep breathing, keep rising. The stage is shifting under their feet, not yours. And, you can almost feel it tightening around your spirit. That sense that you're stepping into a version of yourself you've been crawling toward for years, without even realizing it. That version of you that isn't scared anymore. That version that doesn't shrink for anybody. That version that doesn't second guess the power in your voice or the weight of your presence. It's like the universe finally decided you've done enough surviving, and it's pulling you into a season where you get to live without fear haunting the back of your mind. And the way people react to that, it's telling you everything. Most never realize they're handing out their own eviction. Hey, you listening right now? Let me tell you something real quick before we even get rolling. You're not crazy for feeling what you feel. You're not dramatic. You're not overthinking. You're not imagining the pressure around your name. You're just living in a reality most people aren't built to survive. And somehow, you're still standing, alright? Let's talk. Because you need to hear this today. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today. And I'm gonna say it straight. My style. No filters. No soft edges. No positive vibes only. Nonsense. They're about to face justice. They couldn't take your life, but God can take their position instantly. You know what's wild? You spent so long thinking you were losing, when in reality, you were being positioned. You thought you were getting attacked, but really, you were getting upgraded. You thought people were winning against you. But they were just digging their own hole with your name written on the shovel. And you kept asking God, why is this happening to me? Turns out the real question should have been, Why is God letting me watch their downfall in slow motion? Because let me tell you something, and listen closely. They're about to face justice. Not the cute kind, not the human kind, not the oops, sorry kind. No. Real justice. The kind that doesn't knock, doesn't text ahead, doesn't give warnings. The kind that flips someone's whole life upside down in the middle of their morning coffee. Why? Because they couldn't take your life. They tried, though, didn't they? Emotionally, mentally, spiritually, even socially. They threw rumors like darts. They pushed buttons they had no business touching. They tried to cut off opportunities. They tried to drain you, break you, confuse you, isolate you. But look at you. Still breathing, still fighting, still evolving. And here's the funny part. The part that makes this sound like a twisted joke that only the universe could write. They actually thought they had the power to take you out. Excuse me? The same people who can't even control their own emotions. The same people who crumble the moment life applies pressure. The same people who throw shade because they can't stand their own reflection. Those people thought they could end you. Please, let me remind you, they couldn't take your life because it was never in their hands to begin with. But God can take their position instantly. Instantly, as in a phone call changes everything. Instantly, as in a truth gets revealed in one moment. Instantly, as in the whole foundation they build collapses like a cheap chair at a family barbecue. You know what that means, right? It means the same people who tried to humiliate you are about to get humbled in a way they've never experienced. It means the same people who tried to bury you are about to watch you grow in a place they swore you'd never touch. It means the same people who tried to block you are about to get locked out of rooms they thought they owned. And the best part, you didn't have to clap back. You didn't have to scheme. You didn't have to plot. You didn't have to match their nasty energy. You didn't even have to say their names. You just had to survive. And survival was your loudest revenge. You see, that's what people don't understand about you. They think you're quiet because you're weak. But you're quiet because the noise they make has no impact on a destiny they can't touch. Your silence was never surrender. Your patience was never passivity. Your endurance wasn't weakness. It was all positioning. And now the scales are tipping. Now the tables are turning. Now the shift is happening. And the shift isn't subtle. It's violent in the spiritual sense. It's sudden. It's loud. It's public. Because the truth is, God doesn't embarrass His people. He embarrasses the ones who mess with His people. You ever notice how the people who came for your life end up losing theirs? Not literally, but everything they built around it. Their influence, their connections, their ego, their status, their credibility, their masks, gone. Poof. Ripped away in an instant, like a cheap sticker on a wet surface, and here you are, still rising, still losing. You were being prepared. You weren't abandoned. You were being anointed. That's why this moment is powerful. You didn't win because you fought harder. You won because you stopped fighting battles beneath your calling. And now God is saying, step back. Watch what I do to the ones who touched what I bless. So stand still. Breathe. Relax your shoulders. You don't need revenge. You don't need closure. You don't need explanations. You don't need apologies. You don't need validation. You're in a season where God is about to make sure everyone sees exactly who was protected and exactly who was pretending. And the wildest part about all this, you're starting to realize that everything that felt like chaos was actually choreography. Every hit you took, every whisper, every fake smile, every accidental disrespect, all of it was stacking evidence against them while you were over here thinking you were the one under attack. You ever notice how people get real bold when they think you're vulnerable? How they start moving like they're untouchable, like the universe is their personal security guard. How they laugh a little louder, hope a little harder, gossip a little freer. They only act like that because they thought you were alone. They assumed your silence meant you were unprotected. They assumed your humility meant you were out of options. They assumed your patience meant you were powerless. If only they knew what was coming. Because while they were busy trying to take your life metaphorically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, God was sitting back like, alright, keep going. You're building your own downfall and you don't even see it. It's crazy how the people who hurt you the most never realize they're handing out their own eviction notice while trying to evict you from your peace. You ever felt that shift in your chest? That moment where something in you says, yeah, the storm is changing direction. That wasn't paranoia. That wasn't wishful thinking. That was spiritual confirmation. That was heaven clearing its throat. That was the universe stepping into the room like, we're done playing nice. Like a reminder they didn't expect to receive. You didn't send it. You didn't chase it. You didn't force it. It just arrived. Because you survived long enough for truth to become undeniable. You're stepping into a reality where your presence exposes things people tried to hide for years. Your glow uncovers motives. Your strength reveals insecurities. Your healing brings to light the things they hoped would stay buried. Your growth makes their excuses evaporate, and it's not even intentional. You're literally just breathing, and people are losing the little composure they had left. It's kind of funny when you think about it. They were expecting you to be bitter, broken, angry, resentful, all the things they secretly feel within themselves. But you show up calm, you show up grounded, you show up collected, you show up untouched by the chaos they thought would ruin you. And that unnerves them, like, deeply, on a level their ego can't explain. And their pride can't defend. The same people who laughed at your pain are now sweating at your peace. The same people who mocked your faith are now trembling at your resilience. The same people who tried to crush your sense of self are now choking on the sight of your confidence. Because justice isn't always punishment. Sometimes justice is revelation. The revelation that you were never the weak one. The revelation that you were never the villain in their story. The revelation that you were never the disposable one, never the unstable one, never the easy target they painted you to be. You can feel something in your spirit expanding, like you're outgrowing every limitation they tried to strap on to you. You can sense that internal shift, that deep hum in your chest that says you're stepping into who you were supposed to be before they tried to break you. You can feel your energy tightening, sharpening, focusing, like your soul is finally syncing up with a frequency you weren't allowed to access before. And the timing of it all is insane. Right when you think you're done, right when you're exhausted from carrying emotional weight that wasn't yours, right when you start whispering to yourself, I don't know how much more I have left. That's when the breakthrough starts slipping in through the cracks. Not loudly, not dramatically, not with fireworks and applause, but with that quiet, divine precision that rearranges everything without making a sound. You start seeing opportunities forming out of thin air. You start getting clarity about things that confused you for years. You start feeling lighter in spaces that used to drain you. You start sensing the spiritual eviction happening. Not for you, but for the ones who played with your name, like it didn't carry weight. Their position was temporary. Yours was promised. Their rise was borrowed. Yours was built. You're walking into the kind of season where the truth stands up before you even open your mouth. Where your character speaks louder than their accusations ever did. Where your resilience becomes the spotlight and their intentions become the evidence. And, the universe has a funny way of balancing things right when people think they've gotten away with everything. And, it's wild because you can actually feel the shift in how people speak your name when you're not around. Something in their voice cracks now. Something in their spirit hesitates. Something in their confidence glitches a little, like they suddenly realize they misplayed their hand with the wrong person. You ever notice how people start rewriting history when they sense accountability creeping toward them? They start pretending they were supportive. They start pretending they were neutral. They start pretending they always believed in you. It's funny in a dark, twisted, my-type way. Watching the same people who aimed for your destruction suddenly act like innocent bystanders in a movie they produced, and you're not even mad about it anymore. You're just watching the performance, observing the panic behind their eyes, hearing the tremble behind their excuses, catching the guilt behind their fake compliments, because deep down, they know. They know the energy flipped. They know your spirit isn't where it used to be. They know you're stepping into something bigger, something heavier, something they no longer have the clearance to access. And, the way they react to your peace is exposing everything. Your calmness makes them restless. Your clarity makes them paranoid. Your elevation makes them insecure. Your silence makes them loud. It's like your growth turned into a mirror they never wanted to look into. Every lie they told about you is bouncing back at them. Every move they made in the dark is being illuminated without you lifting a finger. Every intention they tried to hide is crawling out of the cracks, like it's tired of living undercover. And you're not chasing revenge. You're not throwing shade. You're not keeping score. You're just stepping into alignment. When you align spiritually, emotionally, mentally, people who built their identity around your downfall start slipping. You can see it in their posture. You can hear it in their voice. You can feel it in the way they avoid you, like your presence might reveal the truth. they spent years trying to bury. And, it's almost poetic how their position was the thing they worshipped, the thing they defended, the thing they bragged about. And now it's the exact thing that's being taken from them. Not because you wished for it, not because you begged for it, not because you fought for it, but because they tried to take something from you that was never theirs to touch. Your purpose, your peace, your identity, your voice, your future. They couldn't take your life, and somewhere deep in their spirit they're realizing that was the moment everything turned against them. The moment they failed to destroy you was the moment heaven tagged them for a cosmic correction. You can sense that shift around you. Opportunities finding you by accident, connections coming out of nowhere, clarity dropping into your chest at random moments like spiritual notifications, reminders that you've entered a different frequency entirely. And people feel it, oh they feel it, even the ones pretending they don't. Your presence carries a weight now, not a heavy burdensome weight, a powerful, undeniable weight. The kind that makes people sit up straighter. The kind that makes them rethink how they approach you. The kind that forces them to confront the version of you they tried to erase. And, it's not just about justice. It's about revelation. Revelation that you weren't fragile. Revelation that you weren't confused. Revelation that you weren't losing. Revelation that you weren't the villain in the story. Every lie they told about you is dissolving. Every illusion they built is collapsing. Every mask they wore is slipping. Your growth turned into the loudest siren in the room, echoing through every space their ego once occupied. And you can almost feel destiny pulling you forward with this gentle but undeniable force. Like the universe is whispering, keep walking, keep breathing, keep rising. The stage is shifting under their feet, not yours. And, you can almost feel it tightening around your spirit. That sense that you're stepping into a version of yourself you've been crawling toward for years, without even realizing it. That version of you that isn't scared anymore. That version that doesn't shrink for anybody. That version that doesn't second-guess the power in your voice or the weight of your presence. It's like the universe finally decided you've done enough surviving, and it's pulling you into a season where you get to live without fear haunting the back of your mind. And the way people react to that is telling you everything. Because justice, real justice, doesn't knock politely. It doesn't schedule an appointment. It doesn't send a reminder notification. It shows up in the middle of their comfort zone and flips everything upside down before they even get a chance to grab their balance. And the funny thing is, you're not even mad anymore. You're not pressed. You're not bitter. You're not plotting. You're just watching the same people who tried to break you start breaking themselves under pressure they swore they could handle. Watching the same people who swore you were the weak one start folding like a cheap chair at a backyard wedding. Watching the same mouths that talked reckless suddenly go quiet. You're seeing it clearer each day. Their position wasn't theirs. Their influence wasn't theirs. Their connections weren't theirs. Their opportunities weren't theirs. They were borrowing everything while thinking they were the landlord, and, God just sent out the final overdue notice, and the lights in their little kingdom are flickering. Your strength has been terrifying them this whole time. Not the loud strength, not the shout back in their face. Strength. The quiet, unshakable, stubborn strength. The kind that holds eye contact with the storm. The kind that sits through betrayal without losing character. The kind that survives hits that should have ended you. the kind that keeps your soul intact while your world gets rearranged. That's why you're dangerous. You don't break the way they expected. You bend, sure. You stumble. You get shaken. You feel the weight. But you don't collapse. You don't crumble. You don't lose yourself. You don't surrender your identity just to fit their narrative. And that scares people who depend on your downfall to feel tall. It's wild how your resilience reveals their fragility. Your healing exposes their jealousy. Your progress highlights their stagnation. Your authenticity threatens their performance. They see you rising and instantly feel like they're sinking. They see you breathing freely and suddenly feel like they're choking. They see you glowing and feel like they're fading. And instead of fixing themselves, they tried to dim you. You kept moving anyway. You kept growing anyway. You kept surviving anyway. And that's what triggered the justice you're stepping into. You weren't the problem. You were the proof. Proof that their manipulation wasn't working. Proof that their control wasn't strong. Proof that their little schemes weren't as airtight as they believed. Proof that you were built with something they can't manufacture, imitate, or steal. And, it's starting to show in the room when your name comes up. Some people shift. Some people look down. Some people suddenly get quiet. Because they know, they feel it. That pressure around their conscience isn't guilt. It's the weight of the justice they never thought they'd have to face. The irony is almost comedic. They went after your life, but they handed God their position. They tried to bury your potential, but they planted the seeds of their own exposure. They tried to shut you down, but all they did was amplify the signal of your resilience until heaven couldn't ignore the noise. And you're not even trying to be seen. You're not begging for recognition. You're not craving revenge. You're not chasing validation. You're just existing. And your existence alone is making their towers shake from the foundation up. You can feel something rising in you. Something heavy and real. Like your spirit is stretching into a space it was always meant to occupy. You can sense the upgrade forming around you before the announcement even drops. You can almost hear the shift in the atmosphere when you walk into rooms that used to drain you. You can feel the spiritual temperature changing every time your name is spoken by someone who mishandled you. You're stepping into this divine reversal, unintentionally, yet inevitably. Like destiny has you on autopilot. Your only job is to stay aligned, stay awake, stay honest with yourself, stay grounded, stay open to the new, while the old system collapses behind you, without you even needing to look back. And, it's kind of wild watching how the energy shifts when you walk in now. You can feel it, that strange tension in the air, that unspoken acknowledgement. That quiet little ripple that moves through a room, like people suddenly remembered who you actually are. It's not arrogance, it's not ego, it's not you trying to flex. It's just the truth finally catching up to the narrative they tried to build about you. People who once talked over you are suddenly pausing before they speak. People who once underestimated you are suddenly watching you out of the corner of their eye. People who once felt comfortable disrespecting you are suddenly choosing their tone carefully, adjusting their posture, clearing their throat like they feel something tightening around them spiritually. It's the shift, the one you prayed for, cried for, bled for, nearly quit over. That shift where heaven steps into the room before you do. That shift where your existence becomes its own form of justice. That shift where people can't pretend the balance hasn't changed. You ever notice how the same people who used to smirk when you struggled suddenly can't hold eye contact with you anymore? How they look away, fiddle with their phone, fix their shirt, sip their drink like it's gonna save them. That's the weight of accountability pressing against their spirit.
Welcome, dearly beloved anointed ones. You can dodge earthly justice with a good lawyer, but who's going to represent you in heaven's court? Let that sink in. Because there comes a moment when the gavel doesn't slam in a courtroom. It echoes in the spirit realm, and once that judgment begins, not even Wi-Fi prayers can stop it. For years, they've tried everything to destroy you. Lies, schemes, silent attacks. And when they couldn't kill your body, they tried to assassinate your spirit. They thought you were alone, defenseless, easy prey. But what they didn't realize was you were under surveillance by the Most High. Here's a chilling fact. Over 95% of high-level criminal networks collapse not because of whistleblowers, but because of their own arrogance. They talk too much, they get too confident, and eventually they hang themselves with their own ropes. That's exactly what's happening here. They dug your grave, now they're slipping into it. But hold on, we're not just talking earthly jail cells. This goes deeper. This is spiritual justice, divine intervention, the kind of reversal that leaves people speechless or begging for plea deals from both judges and Jesus. So buckle up, because what's coming isn't just karma. It's God reminding everyone why you don't mess with the anointed. And the way he's flipping the script, let's just say even Netflix couldn't write it better. Let's get into it. Number one, they tried to erase a soul that was divinely encoded with immortality. They tried to erase a soul that was divinely encoded with immortality. They thought if they pushed hard enough, lied long enough, and attacked consistently, they could delete you like a file from a hard drive. But what they were dealing with wasn't just flesh and blood. It was purpose wrapped in skin. They didn't understand that your existence wasn't man-made. You weren't created to be liked, approved, or even tolerated. You were assigned. And no matter how much they hated your presence was never up for their approval. They didn't give you your bread, and they sure couldn't take it away. They came with every weapon they could find: slander, manipulation, setups, false accusations, even spiritual attacks, thinking that if they couldn't break you physically, they'd wear you down mentally and spiritually. But every time you survived, they grew more terrified, because deep down, they knew this wasn't normal resilience. This wasn't just strength, it was divine insulation. It was favor that couldn't be cracked, even under pressure. And the more they pressed, the more undeniable your covering became. That's when it turned. The fear shifted. They weren't just trying to break you anymore. They were trying to silence what your survival revealed about them. Because your endurance exposed their cruelty. Your innocence exposed their guilt. And your peace in the middle of chaos made it impossible to keep pretending you were the problem. Their masks started slipping, their stories started unraveling. People began to notice the pattern. Why does this person keep thriving after everything thrown at them? It made them uncomfortable, and eventually it made them desperate. But here's the reality. When someone tries to erase what God has established, they don't succeed. They self-destruct. Every attempt to cancel you only became more evidence of your divine origin. Every plot turned into a paper trail of their corruption. They didn't stop you, they documented themselves, and now the judgment has caught up. They're realizing too late they were never fighting you. They were fighting the one who sent you. And that kind of war doesn't end with warnings, it ends with justice. They couldn't take your life, but the one who gave it to you can take theirs in an instant. And no apology will undo the sentence. Number two, you were the test, and their response was spiritual treason. You were never just another face in the crowd. You were the test they didn't know they were taking. God placed you in their lives as a measuring stick, not to see how much they could love you, but to reveal how far they would go to destroy someone they couldn't control. Your presence exposed them. Your light irritated everything they were trying to keep hidden. And instead of seeing your presence as a blessing, they saw it as a threat. That's when the mask slipped. That's when the real character started to show. They didn't just fail the test, they violated it. They crossed lines they can't uncross. They touched what was sacred, thinking they were dealing with just another ordinary person, but they weren't messing with a regular human being. You were a divine setup, a mirror, a trigger, a wake-up call. And when they chose manipulation over honesty, betrayal over loyalty, harm over healing, they failed the very reason God allowed you in their space. They exposed themselves. That's the thing. You didn't have to do anything wrong. Just being you was enough. The test was whether they could honor what was holy in front of them, and they couldn't. They used you, mocked you, tried to destroy you, and then convinced themselves they were justified. That kind of self-deception is dangerous, because once someone starts believing that hurting you is okay, they go blind to the trap they're walking into. They think they're in control, but they've already been recorded, weighed, and found guilty. And now the judgment is unfolding slowly, strategically, not out of revenge, but out of divine law. They touched something that wasn't theirs to harm. And heaven doesn't let that slide. You weren't just a target. You were evidence, proof of how people behave when no one's looking. You were sent to reveal what they didn't want to confront in themselves, and instead of transforming, they retaliated. That retaliation just sealed their fate. The test is over. They didn't just lose access to you. They activated consequences they can't run from. Because when you fail a divine test by trying to destroy the very person sent to help you evolve, you don't just lose blessings, that is it. You face judgment. And it's already begun. Number 3, they violated cosmic law trying to maintain carnal control. They weren't just jealous. They weren't just petty. What they did to you was deeper than envy. It was a spiritual violation disguised as personal conflict. They tried to maintain control over you using carnal methods, but what they were really fighting was something far beyond their understanding. They were attempting to bend divine order to serve their own agenda. That's why nothing they did ever truly worked, even when it looked like they had the upper hand for a while. They were violating universal law, and the debt for that kind of rebellion always comes due with interest. They thought they were slick, manipulating situations behind the scenes, using emotional tactics, leveraging lies, and pulling strings in places you didn't even know existed. Some of them even dabbled in spiritual practices, trying to stop your rise. But no matter what they threw at you, you kept standing. And every time you got back up, it exposed just how powerless their schemes really were. That's what drove them crazy. Not just your strength, but your immunity. You were protected in a way they couldn't explain, and that frustrated their control. They broke natural laws, trying to interrupt a supernatural calling. They tried to contain what they didn't create. And when people play God without divine authority, things start to break, starting with them. What they called strategy was actually self-destruction. They kept pushing because they couldn't stand the fact that someone like you, someone they thought was beneath them, was actually chosen. But spiritual elevation doesn't need their permission. And that's what they couldn't swallow. Now they're reaping what they've sown. Not because you curse them or wish bad on them, but because divine law doesn't sleep. It doesn't get bribed. It doesn't miss anything. The same force they challenged is now collecting the bill. Their attempts to control you only reveal how out of control they really were. And now everything they used to block your path is being used as evidence against them. You weren't fighting back, but heaven was. And heaven doesn't lose battles. It writes history. The laws they broke weren't yours to enforce, but they were God's to avenge, and that time is now. And that time is number 4. They thought if they couldn't kill you physically, they could assassinate your destiny. They were obsessed with your downfall, but they couldn't touch your body, so they went after your purpose. They thought if they couldn't end your life, they'd at least paralyze your future. They tried to destroy your reputation, attack your name, isolate you from your support, and drain you of hope. They whispered lies behind closed doors, played victim in public, and sowed seeds of confusion wherever your name came up. But they misunderstood something critical. Destiny doesn't die from slander, and purpose doesn't vanish because people are uncomfortable with your power. They weren't just trying to hurt you, they were trying to rob the world of what you were born to give. That's why their attacks were so relentless. They couldn't stand the thought of your voice being heard, your influence growing, or your light exposing their darkness. So they worked overtime to convince others you were the problem, that you were unstable, untrustworthy, unworthy. But every lie they told added more weight to their own downfall. What they didn't realize is that your destiny wasn't fragile. It was fortified. Every time they tried to assassinate it, they accidentally furthered Every betrayal made you bolder. Every setup became part of your setup. And while they were digging pit after pit, trying to bury your corpse, they were actually building the blueprint for their own exposure. And now, those pits have turned into prison cells. The very energy they sent out to trap you is closing in on them. They try to spiritually incarcerate you, isolate you, label you, sabotage your name. But all they did was create a trail of evidence that can't be ignored. What they meant to destroy you has become a mirror, and the world is finally seeing what's been hiding behind their masks. They thought they could erase your mission. Instead, they became the reason it's undeniable. Because the level of attack you face only confirms the magnitude of your calling. And now, the silence they try to force on you is being broken by the sound of justice knocking on their door. Number 5. God let them run long enough to build their own gallows. God is never in a rush to destroy. He watches, he waits, not because he's slow to act, but because he is wise enough to give people room to reveal who they really are. He let them keep moving, keep talking, keep plotting. Not because he couldn't stop them, but because he knew every step they took in pride was leading them straight into judgment. They thought their success in evil meant they were getting away with it. But what they were really doing was building their own gallows, one quiet act of arrogance at a time. He gave them space to change. That was mercy. He gave them moments when they could have stepped back, apologized, and turned around. But they didn't. They mistook his patience for approval. They confused his silence with permission. Instead of humbling themselves, they got bolder. Instead of repenting, they expanded their wickedness. And that is the danger. When someone's ego goes louder than their conscience, they think they are untouchable. But God does not forget. He simply collects. He allows people to go far enough until their own actions start speaking louder than any form of accusation. The world they thought was there to control was actually the mercy they were supposed to use to find that truth. But in arrogance they wrapped it around their own necks, not lived with it spiritually. They tied themselves to every lie, every betrayal, every wicked intention. And now that the truth is surfacing, that same road has become the chain that exposes them. They set traps, made false reports, spread gossip, and manipulated situations thinking no one would ever know. But God was watching, and he let them keep going until the evidence built itself. They were too proud to stop, too blind to see they were digging their own hole. Now there's no one else to blame. They cannot talk their way out. They cannot twist the story anymore. The damage is documented. The devices they created to trap you are the same ones being used against them. Judgment is not delayed because God is absent. It is delayed because he gives every soul a fair chance. But when that chance is thrown away in arrogance, what comes next is not a warning. It is a sentence. And now, that sentence has arrived. Number 6, you didn't need to fight. Your innocence screamed louder than any retaliation. You didn't have to clap back. You didn't have to prove anything. You didn't even have to defend yourself. Because the truth has a strange way of surviving, even when it's buried under lies. While they were busy trying to destroy your character, your innocence was working behind the scenes like a silent alarm. You didn't fight with your fists or your mouth. You fought by staying true to who you are. And that spoke louder than anything the truth said. They ran their mouths with confidence, not realizing that every false word was being reported in the spirit. Every exaggeration, every rumor, every twisted story, all of it was being collected as evidence. God wasn't idle, he wasn't ignoring it. He was gathering it like legal documents, preparing carried yourself has become a witness in your favor. The way you didn't respond to them, didn't speak to their level, didn't try to represent, it all proved that you had real respect. And now people are looking at the situation with new eyes. They're seeing that it was never about you being wrong. It was about them needing someone to destroy because your light exposed their darkness. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need to prove anything. God was watching, collecting, and now revealing, and the same ones who try to bury you in lies are the ones now drowning in the truth. Number 7, they underestimated the reach of divine surveillance. They really thought they were safe because no one was physically watching them. They assumed that secrecy meant immunity. As long as there were no cameras, no witnesses, and no immediate punishment, they believed they had nothing to worry about. But what they failed to realize is that divine surveillance sees what human eyes miss. The unseen realm doesn't need security footage. It doesn't need phone recordings. It doesn't miss a whisper, a thought, or a motive. While they were laughing in the dark, planning in secret and pretending in public, heaven was recording every single detail, every conversation they had behind closed doors, every message they deleted, every shady agreement they made, every time they smiled in your face and cursed you behind your back. It was all being documented by a force they thought didn't exist, or at least a force they thought would never respond. They thought their rituals were hidden. They thought their backroom deals would never be exposed. Some even mocked the spiritual realm, calling it superstition or paranoia. But now, that same unseen realm they dismissed is moving into the physical world, and it is bringing receipts. Things they thought were buried are resurfacing. People they trusted are flipping. Devices are being seized. Secrets are unraveling. And it is not a coincidence. It is divine consequence. You didn't have to catch them. God already did. You didn't have to dig for evidence. Heaven already compiled the file. They assumed that because you were quiet, you were clueless, but the truth is, you were protected by something they could not access or manipulate. They had no idea they were under spiritual surveillance the entire time. Now, the justice they thought they escaped is showing up in the most unexpected ways through legal systems, personal breakdowns, public exposure, and undeniable patterns of failure. They cannot keep hiding because the unseen realm is shining a light on everything they tried to keep in the dark. They're Peace is gone. Their money, their status, their alliances. None of it is working. And in the quiet corners of their minds, they're starting to realize something. You were never present. In fact, you were protected, covered, watched over by a power they didn't take seriously until now. They used to multiple prayers. Now they're whispering their own and asking God not to expose them, not to let the consequences hit too hard. But it's too late. Pride had its moment. And now humility is being forced on them, not through inspiration but through pressure. The same God they said wasn't real is now very real in their situation. He's not ignoring their cries, but he's not rushing to It's spiritual justice playing out in real time. God is using the earthly justice system as an instrument to show the world that when he says, no weapon formed against you shall prosper, he means it. And sometimes the consequences don't show up in the next life. They show up right here, in handcuffs, courtrooms, and exposed reputations. They thought you were the one being judged. But the whole time they were the ones on trial. They didn't even know they were being watched, documented, and set up by their own pride. Now they are sitting in the same pit they dug for you, and all they can do is sit there in disbelief while the world watches the poetic justice unfold. Number 12. Their attack became your promotion, and their judgment became your vindication. They had one goal: to stop you. They wanted to block your progress, delay your blessings, steal your opportunities, and ruin your name. They operated out of pure spite, not realizing that every act of malice was secretly pushing you into a greater level of failure. What they thought was a setback was actually a setup. Every door they tried to shut only led into a better one. Every plan they made to break through became fuel for your next breakthrough. Their attacks didn't destroy you, they promoted you. Every time they tried to sabotage you, God elevated you. Every trap they set forced you to grow stronger, wiser, and more spiritually. What they meant for harm became part of your preparation. God didn't just protect you from their schemes. He used those very schemes to increase your rank in the spirit. While they were busy tearing you down, heaven was busy building you up. And now, the results are undeniable. You're standing in places they never thought you'd reach. You're walking in authority they tried to strip from you. You've been multiplied in the very areas they tried to drain. They tried to subtract from your life, but God added double. They tried to erase your influence, but now you are shining brighter than ever. Not because you fought back, but because you stayed in alignment while they lost theirs. But the other side of this is not so pretty. For them, the same schemes they used are now exposing them. Every act of jealousy, manipulation, and sabotage is unraveled. Their behavior, once hidden behind charm and lies, is now front and center. People are seeing their true character without you ever saying a word. The mask is off, the truth is loud, and their judgment has arrived. While you are being promoted in silence, their own actions are dragging them into exposure. Your vindication isn't based on revenge, it's based on the undeniable contrast. They try to steal your harvest, and now they're left with famine. You stay rooted, you stay faithful, and now the evidence is speaking for itself. Your elevation is their undoing, and your rise is proof that no weapon formed against you ever stood a chance. Number 13. You weren't just a target, you were divine evidence in human form. They didn't just target you out of hate. They targeted you because your presence revealed something uncomfortable about you. You weren't just another person moving through life. You were divine evidence walking in human form. God didn't just allow you to be there by chance. He placed you like a light in a dark room, knowing that your very existence would expose what others tried to keep hidden. You were never a problem. You were the proof. That is why the attacks were so brutal. That is why the slander was so calculated. That is why they watched your every move, tried to twist your words, and did everything in their power to discredit you. Because deep down, they knew you saw through them. You carried a level of discernment and purity that made their manipulation ineffective. Your life exposed the double lies they were living. You didn't have to accuse them. Your integrity was the accusation. You didn't have to uncover anything. Your consistency made the truth impossible to bury. God let you go through the fire, not to destroy you, but to draw out what needed to be seen. You became the mirror that corruption couldn't ignore. You were the test they failed, the invitation to change they rejected, and because they didn't just reject you, but the one who sent you, the consequences were unavoidable. Your survival is not just a personal victory, it is a public indictment. You walking out of every trap they set, still standing, still clear, still blessed. That is what's breaking the spell. That is what's making people ask questions. That is what's pulling back the curtain on the ones who thought they were above that. Your survival He doesn't sit back while his chosen ones are trampled on without putting something in motion. What they're experiencing now isn't random. It's the result of divine timing. A judgment that has been building, waiting for the perfect moment to drop. For years they thought they were getting away with it. They took your silence as weakness. They misinterpreted grace as absence. But the truth is, God was giving them time, not to win, but to change. And when they chose to dig deeper into wickedness, He began to prepare the consequences. This isn't payback. It's prophecy. It's correction. It's heaven saying, enough is enough. When God corrects, He doesn't just deal with behavior. He cleanses entire atmospheres. He removes threats, disrupts systems, exposes patterns, and shuts down demonic altars. And what people don't realize is that sometimes when they touch a chosen one, they're not just messing with a person. They're interfering with divine infrastructure. You were never just a victim. You were part of God's plan. And that means what they did to you was recorded in heaven. Not for pity, but for righteous judgment. Now the world is watching the flip. The ones who tried to bury you are being buried by their own actions. The ones who mocked your trust in God are now looking for mercy they never gave. The same mouths that lied are now too afraid to speak, and it's all happening because God is sending a message that He defends His own in a way no courtroom, no lawyer, no revenge plot ever could. You didn't need to lift a finger. You didn't need to strike back. All you had to do was stay faithful. And now justice is speaking. Not in whispers, but in headlines. Not in rumors, but in full exposure. God is making it clear. His chosen don't need to fight for revenge because He's already written the ending. And when He judges, it is final. It is perfect. And it is a warning. Touch not His anointed. Everything they did in the dark is being dragged into the light. Not by force, but by divine authority. The very ones who thought they were untouchable are now trapped in the very web they spun for you. This isn't a coincidence, and it's not just poetic justice, it's prophecy unfolding. It's the hand of God making an open example out of hidden wickedness. You didn't have to prove your innocence because heaven already validated your heart. You didn't have to clap back because God was already building a case that no lie could survive. And now the same people who tried to erase you are being publicly corrected, not by your power, but by God's unmatched justice. The gallows they built were never for you. The spiritual traps, the false accusations, the envy, the witchcraft, the smear campaigns, all of it has turned into receipts for their downfall. And you're rising, you're glowing, you're walking proof that no weapon formed will prosper when God's hand is on your life. This is more than closure. This is God restoring order. This is a public declaration that He sees all, He hears all, and He defends His own, not with petty retaliation, but with prophetic precision. They tried to take your life, but God is reclaiming His glory through yours. Their fall is not just punishment. It's a loud divine announcement that righteousness still reigns. If this message lit a fire in your spirit or confirmed what you've been feeling deep down, don't just scroll away. Subscribe to the channel right now. This space is a sanctuary for truth, healing, and divine clarity. Like this video so it reaches others who need this confirmation. Comment below and let us know how this spoke to you. Your testimony could be someone else's breakthrough. And don't keep this to yourself. Share it with a friend, a loved one, or someone who's been silently enduring spiritual warfare. Let them know they're not crazy, they're not alone, and God is moving. You're not just watching a video, you're stepping into a revelation. Stay connected, stay aligned, and remember, heaven has receipts. God bless you.
45 years old, running 100 now. fixing freezers. I had a dry last one. Crazy, crazy, crazy. Love it. I really do love it. Io sono I do. Lo sacamos. Chevy. Four-wheel drive. These colors are blue. This is solid red. I really don't remember. All of this here is everything. Where's our calorie? 1, 2, 3. Burn a calorie. Alsacia. I know where to go. See, you were the good child. You were the good child. Probably swimming area, honestly.